Velvet, the pie, where's the pie?
You know, there's an animal more popular in this film than Liz Taylor.
And it wasn't the horse.
When Velvet Brown, Elizabeth Taylor, an equine-loving 12-year-old that lives in rural Sussex, England, she becomes the owner of a rambunctious horse and decides to train it for the Grand National Steeplechase. Aided by reluctant former jockey Mai Taylor, who's Mickey Rooney, and encouraged by her family, the determined Velvet gets her steed, the Pie, ready for the big day. However, a last-minute problem arises with the slick jockey hired for race day, and an unexpected rider steps in as the replacement.
I can't wait for this one. I'm very excited.
But before we do anything, we have a sponsor.
Yep.
Very nice sponsor who really helped us out today. And I want to just talk about it a little bit. Okay, Joe? If you don't mind. Here at Real Watchlist, we want to take a moment to thank Lighthouse Photography for allowing us to film at their beautiful studio. As a husband and wife team with over 15 years of experience, Lighthouse Photography brings you most cherished moments to life through their passion for stunning photography and creative graphic design. From breathtaking wedding photos to heartfelt family portraits, check out their work at lighthousephotography.com and follow them on Instagram at Lighthouse Photography, where memories are captured for a lifetime. Now back to our episode.
Are you ready to score?
Yes, I am. I'm turning it real quick so you can't see it.
So we got our signs up, our score paddles up, ready to turn.
And you're going to die when you see mine.
Uh-oh. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, flip.
9, and look at that. It's the only thing I know how to draw is a horse head.
Oh my God.
Horse.
It's a horse, and I got a horse here too.
And what does
that look like?
Is that manure?
I have a little picture on my sign. I always do artwork on my sign besides the number. It's a pie.
Oh, it looks like a horse poop with steam coming off of it.
It's a hot pie. Usually when we're on the same page, you know, we're kind of like all nicey-niceys, but I want to get a little bit riled up. I want to rile up this horse.
I have to tell something to the audience because people really don't know my background except for my old friends
Geez,
who
a lot
watch
of background, folks.
You
only have 20 minutes with your background. I had 20 minutes for the show.
I had show jumpers. I had 29 horses altogether, and I used to work at Monmouth Park when I was a young tyke. 14 up to, I don't know how old I was. And they had steeplechasers every year.
Wow.
And they would come and nobody wanted to ride them. And in the morning, I would make an extra $8.
Wow.
And I'd go out and I'd gallop those jugheads on the wet grass and take them over small fences. And I said, after I did it once, I'll never do it again. I almost got killed.
Oh my God.
But anyway, so yes, it's very important to me.
Okay, we learned things with Debbie. Are you like biased because you're a horse lover and you like National Velvet? What part of the movie turned you on?
Well, first of all, what really turned me on about the movie is...
Because I'm a novice when it comes to this stuff, so you're the expert.
What turned me on is really the realism of this picture. Actually, Elizabeth Taylor rode this horse. I didn't know she could ride.
Yes.
And she actually jumped it, and of course they did have some jockeys doing, like, you know, when the Beecher's Brook is a big thing in this, but I thought that was fascinating because
she had that background.
Yeah, I always liked Elizabeth Taylor, but in her later movies, sometimes I thought, she's not that great of an actress, but this gave me more cred to her.
Right.
And I also thought she was a femme fatale, which I love because she got married so many times. I get that totally, but because men are wonderful. But I also, Mickey Rooney was like, oh my God, he was so goddamn good in this.
But I love the scene where Mike Taylor and Elizabeth Taylor, who was Velvet Brown, and they meet for the first time as sort of Mickey Rooney's walking down the path on his own, whistling, and they interact at a point where Velvet is galloping because she's so into horses. She's galloping. When she goes to bed, she's like riding the horses. She's like imitating riding horses. She has such love for horses. And when they meet, they see this runaway horse. All of a sudden, you know, they're looking, and the horse just jumps over the fence. It's a stone fence, and they're in shock. They're in awe. And what I loved about it, it was kind of cute because you got to think of the time. You're talking about a movie that's, you know, from 1944. Yeah. And special effects were a little bit different, not as different from what we see today. Mickey Rooney, who had a background in jockeying horses, we learn later, is like, oh my God, get away. And she runs up to the horse. The horse is ready to gallop over her and trample her, and she stops the horse. Which
is one of the most dangerous things you could ever do with a horse.
Right, and I'm thinking, and it was funny too, because, you know, watching the movie, it was a movie of film image of the horse riding up and just like raising its front.
Yeah.
And she's like, stop. And the horse automatically stops. And
Yes.
then immediately while you're watching, like, oh, okay, there's a relationship here that's ready to start.
Right.
And I love the whole premise of the movie. You get nostalgic. It's a wonderful family. It takes place in Great Britain. And the family, you have Mr. and Mrs. Brown, who call themselves Mr. and Mrs. Brown, and the 3 daughters and the young boy. And it really reminded you of that period of time in cinema. I didn't realize when I was watching it, Angela Lansbury was a young Angela Lansbury.
Yes,
and I'm thinking,
pretty.
she looks familiar. She looks familiar. I'm like, oh my God, she's the older sister. The other scene that I really liked was when Velvet is like just gung-ho. She now owns the horse. She wins the horse from a raffle, town raffle.
Yes.
She doesn't win it immediately. She gets it in second place because the other person couldn't be found. They picked her number. Fast forward, they're ready to go and enter the race.
Right.
And the mother gives Velvet money that she earned from crossing the English Channel.
And she had it up in the attic all along with all her pictures in a trunk, which is a really cool thing because she never was grandiose about herself. She always just knew that the money was to be used at something phenomenal. And actually, the father wasn't really into it. He was it was like a bother. But after a while, he just saw that actually this horse probably does have the talent, and also the town people got behind it, and great picture for family values. Fantastic.
The scene that really changed it for me, and I guess changes the story, and you have to tell me because you're like the Queen of Arcs, like Joan of Arc. You're Debbie of Arcs. So you tell me if I'm right. The scene where Mai is going to London, enter the papers to take the gold coins. He goes to a bar and he meets up with these 2 kind of, gentlemen, English gentlemen that are going to try to rip him off of his gold coins. They try to convince him to, hey, just tell him you lost the money. Give us the money, bet on this horse, you're going to win.
And it's a lot of money. It's like gold in a bag, wow.
You're gonna
It changes life.
Right, and all of a sudden they say something about Mrs. Brown, something derogatory, and then all of a sudden Mai changes from this opportunist who doesn't give anything about life, to someone who's like, wait a minute, you're saying something bad about someone who actually gave me something, offered me an opportunity, who might really have good feelings. Yeah. Because there were basically these 2 goons were saying that, oh, she's sweet on you, or you sweet on her. Right. And he's like, well, I'm really offended, even though he was drunk.
He was really plastered.
Yes.
And one thing about it, I thought he played the greatest drunk. He was so drunk. Mm-hmm. I sit there when I watch somebody really emotional in a movie or being a drunk, I go, that's really great acting. Mm-hmm. It's so hard to do.
Yeah, he did
or even
it well.
Be scared in a movie. Those are the 3 things that are very difficult as an actor, I think.
So would that have been the arc?
Let me tell you, the picture has 2 arcs.
So did I get that one right?
You did.
Okay.
Look at this.
I feel so successful.
He's unbelievable.
I'm learning.
He's a font. Like I said, a font of everything.
So there could be 2 arcs in the story?
There's 2 arcs where all of a sudden Mai feels, this is my family now in a way. And I'm going to really, and I think that horse can win. I love Velvet. I love the family. The father's coming around to really like him. He's charming. He loves a little kid in the family.
Can I guess the second arc?
Give me a shot.
Okay, shoot it. Oh, you want me to give you a shot?
Oh,
I thought you maybe get a shot to tell the second arc.
No, what's the second arc? And I'll tell you if you're right.
Second arc is when a scene where he reconsiders his fear for horses, because he had entered a similar steeplechase, and in his rush to win, hits another jockey and kills the jockey. So he has this fear, and you'll learn about this later on in the movie. And then as he can't find a jockey, they don't accept the jockey that they were originally going to choose. And he's like, wait a minute, I can do this.
Ready for me to step in?
Go for it, jump.
No.
Oh!
that could be considered a mini arc, but an arc is something that changes the trajectory of the whole film.
Oh.
And the arc is when they have the dinner with the jockey that they hired. When she starts to say, you're not going to ride my horse, and Mai feels the same. Right. Even though that's a professional jockey, that's the arc, because that's the thing that changes. And even though Mai comes to terms, he never rides the race.
Right. Right.
And spoiler, Velvet does. And that's the arc. That's the second arc. So the picture has many things that are transitionary, But those are the two big arcs in the film. And what I love too is the scene with the mom in the attic. I thought that whole speech was unbelievable. It was so soft and yet warm. And so the mother, sometimes when you don't push yourself forward, it just shows how incredibly important what she did, and that she just took a back seat in a soft way, but she was one of the most important sports people. And another thing I just loved about the film was the way it opened with Mai walking down the road. And at the end, the same thing where Mai just takes off. He says his job is done. He feels sufficient enough to make it in the world. And his job was done with Velvet, and to go back into the world with the memory of his father, and just said he was a great person. And she jumps on her horse and runs down to meet him. You don't have to see a scene where they're interacting. You just see Mai way down on the road, and then you see Pi and Velvet running up, and you see them talking. And you know from that point on, she's the hero of the town. She's got this wonderful horse that everybody loves, which is funny too, because when they go to the race, all these horses are so fancy, and they have this stock trailer that they put this horse in, and they get a transport. But at the end, you can just, in your mind, these films make you keep imagining the way the future would be rather than slapping you in the face with it. And that's what I loved.
It was a classic MGM ending where the music background is a crescendo. It's a long shot. And it's a painted background scene.
But it's beautiful.
It was so well done. Unless you're really looking, you don't notice, but what you do notice is that feel. You have the sun in the background kind of setting, and there's a long road. It's just so well done. But I mean, again, such a great way to end the movie with that. And you're like, oh, and then you feel good.
And these old films, even though somebody might look at them, and if they really started really caring about movies, they would say, oh, look, it looks crazy. It looks so, it's charming. And we need more charming nowadays. We need more softness. We need more morality lessons with a way of a wonderful scripted dialogue, rather than, we don't get many morality lessons or great parents in movies anymore. It's like kind of like a thing of the past.
I don't know if it's technology or if it's something that, because films are made to be more realistic. I think maybe making it more realistic takes away from the imagination as you're watching.
Yes.
Because one way as I'm researching and learning more, it's letting the viewer, the audience member, fantasize or envision what's going on rather than telling you what's happening, making you into robots.
Right.
No, let the mind take you to where the filmmaker wants to take you.
And there was a whole time in Hollywood, like between, I'd say, the 1950s and the 1970s, where coloration, Technicolor, Eastman color, all these things, they were like beautiful. And maybe they were not realistic as far as the actual lighting, but they were pretty. And pretty is a big deal, I mean, it really is. Right. And we don't, sometimes with modern film, it's too dark. You can't see when there's not shadows. It's like, if you're trying to watch a movie in the daytime, it's so dark you're like squinting, which is ridiculous to see. But films were so pretty back then.
So,
what are we doing?
Classic CINESIPS time.
It's
time to taste something cool and sparkly.
Okay.
So today we're going to have a drink that was actually made from Great Britain. It's called a Pimm's Cup.
Okay.
Pick up your Pimm's Cup.
Yeah, I am, but it's low, so I can't stick my tongue in it to taste it. Because look, it's my tongue.
What's the matter with your tongue?
Let me see how big it is.
Good. Tongue away, Debbie. Tongue away.
I did it, but all I tasted was a cucumber.
Now you're going to drop your board.
I know.
Slippery. A fitting cocktail to pair with National Velvet would be the Pimm's Cup. Created in the early 1800s by London bar owner James Pimm, this cocktail was popular in Great Britain. Pimm's #1 is the base of the drink and is a gin-based liqueur that is refreshing and has a fruity taste.
Gin. And I must say.
Shall we taste? You tasted before me?
No, I didn't. I ate a cucumber.
Okay.
Okay, I'll taste it.
Let's try it.
I actually might be able to drink this one.
Yeah.
But I want to say something. I used to go fox hunting on Saturdays, and everybody would drink Pimm's Cup after. and I did not. But now this is what they would stop after the hunt and at the hunt ball. And Joe, this is like $1,000. You have to go to like the store and buy every fruit and vegetable that ever was.
So get yourself a large pitcher, fill it with ice, and part of the recipe includes chopping up chunks of orange, of strawberry, of apple, and taking some mint, tearing it up, throwing it in there. Then pour 1 part of Pimm's liqueur and 2 parts of lemon soda. Now in England, in Great Britain, a lemon soda would be different from the States. A lemon soda would be like lemonade, but their lemonade is not as, it's not flat, it's not like as we would drink a lemonade.
Okay.
So to improvise, what you do is take lemonade, 1 part lemonade, 1 part of seltzer, and mix that together. So it's 1 part Pimm's, 1 part seltzer, 1 part lemonade, and gently stir. Pour it into a glass with ice, add your fruit, and just drink away and watch National Velvet.
Yes. All right. And I wish I could put my goggles on, but when I put them on, they fog up and I can't see. Plus, I can never see. Everybody knows that if they watch these episodes, I have to have. But I do have new pink glasses, so they're like.
Can I put you in the front of my lawn? And you just stand there?
Only if I'm really holding a horse. Then I'll be riding that horse.
I bet you would.
But so I'm a jockey, and these are my silks.
So you're imitating Velvet when she got into her jockey outfit.
Yep. Switch whipping. That's what you do. Earl Warren style. Switch whip.
And I tried desperately to be my Mike Taylor, Mickey Rooney. Didn't quite come out the way I wanted to.
It's a little red.
It kind of imitates, the layering of what he had, what he wore in the film.
Yes.
But it was ultra red, so maybe call me Red Velvet instead of National Velvet. And this hat kind of reminds me of Nick Damone from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, the guy who's selling scalp tickets. So I'm a mess today. But I'm red.
You're not a mess. So if we were to talk about Elizabeth Taylor first.
Yep, she was 12 years old when she starred in this movie.
She was.
She wanted this movie so bad, and her mom was, as I'm reading more and researching more, she was almost like a stage mom. She really wanted her daughter to be in showbiz and in films. They weren't going to cast her. The director didn't want her because she looked too boyish. And again, you have to think, she's 12 years old. She's going through changes. She purposely ate proteins like steak just to beef herself up. And during the time period of when she was told, you don't look right, to the time they started filming, she actually ended up with having some curvature, some more feminine look, and they cast her. And she was in a couple movies before this, too.
She was in a couple movies, but this was her breakout role. This was a smash hit, this movie. It grossed $4 million. It was an instant hit. And we talk about a lot of our classic films that over time became hits.
Right.
But this one, right off the bat, was a big one. And she became the top child star at MGM. And of course, in the other vein, Shirley Temple was, doing things.
Well, they talked about Shirley Temple being offered the part, and Shirley Temple's mother didn't think it was enough for her.
I can't even see Shirley Temple in this.
I couldn't.
No, I can't, because she's like good ship lollipopping her hair in ringlets and jumping up and down the stairs and dancing away.
Which, again, it's like the fate. Things could have been so much different if Elizabeth Taylor didn't get this part. She actually said that she was really, she loved the part. She also got hurt on the part.
Yes. So she had a really bad fall, which injured her for the rest of her life. She always had a bad back. But she loved this horse so much, and they only paid $800 for this horse. I got to get in the horse a little bit. And she bonded with him, and his name actually was King Charles, this horse. And the thing that was so interesting about it was he was the first cousin of Seabiscuit and subject of 2 biopics. Seabiscuit, of course, later on. I don't know that they're classics. There was an old one, and then there's a new one. And both had Man o' War, which is one of my favorite horses of all time, as their grand sire. So let's go on. Let's talk a little bit about Mickey Rooney.
Mickey Rooney he headlined this movie. He was actually the star. This was also his return back to more serious films because, again, a childhood actor.
Look at this.
I know. There you go.
I'm going wild.
he comes back from, doing movies. He did a lot of movies with Judy Garland. Sorry.
He started when he was 17 months old. Can you imagine?
Yep. He stole the show. His father was a performer.
Yep.
And he walked out on stage accidentally. And the director or the person who was in charge of the theater loved it so much that they said, we want your kid in the show. And the father got jealous. He's like, my son, my baby's stealing my show. But then they offered him money. Then everything was okay.
Yeah, vaudeville was a big deal. So, a lot of actors did vaudeville shows. He was short, but it didn't stop him from being married 8 times.
Yeah, he had. So if you research him, people either really loved him or really didn't like him. He had a temper, but you wouldn't think that. I always thought of Mickey Rooney as
especially
Mickey
from
Rooney.
all the Andy Hardy movies. I think he did, how many? He did 20 Andy Hardy movies. And they're on Turner constantly. I mean, they're always on. And he was the top box office star in MGM in 1939, 1940, and 1941. And then he also was a good dramatic actor because he was in Boys Town with Spencer Tracy. And he got a Juvenile Academy Award, which they gave back then. They don't do that anymore. They just give the Oscar. Remember Tatum O'Neal won an Oscar for Paper Moon, which to me kind of shocked me when that happened.
To her?
She's
Anyone
out there
knows,
somewhere.
comment below because
she's doing something. We can't
still alive.
We can't keep track of everyone.
No. You know what shocked me?
What?
I'm watching the movie and I'm like, that guy looks familiar. That guy looks familiar. It's Donald Crisp.
Broken Blossom.
Broken Blossom. Check that episode out, folks. Donald Crisp, who really was a major actor of his time, and was able to move from silent to talkies.
It was amazing. I did not know
Oscar
that
winner.
before we did Broken Blossoms.
Yeah, but in Broken Blossoms, and I'm sure you're going to watch that episode, he played a terrorizing father, and it just threw me because he was such a great performer in this movie. He was a kind father, but stern. He just played a great role, but it was such from this angry villain to this sweet, lovable dad. Anne Revere?
Well, she's the glue that holds this thing together, really, 100%. Actually, did you know how her career kind of ended?
I do.
Do you want to tell us about that,
Sure.
sir?
So Anne Revere was a communist, or was partaking in the Communist Party, and during the McCarthy era, Un-American Activities Committee in 1951. And these actors were brought before Congress, a Congress committee. Now, it's essentially a time period in which, if you said the word communist, you're not only you were done when whatever you do. And there was such a focus on Hollywood.
The actors they were progressives, I guess, and they used to meet. And if they found out that you were in one of those meetings, it was called the Red Scare in Hollywood. You were like.
And she refused to testify against her fellow actors because they were forcing other actors to rat out other actors who could possibly be part of the Communist Party.
Right.
By doing so and invoking her Fifth Amendment rights, she was blacklisted. You never saw her again until much later.
She's a great actress. I mean, I just loved it. There's something about her. I just love the look of her even. I just love, really.
Yeah, and she got an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress that year for this role. Do you know there's another actor that was actually more popular than Elizabeth Taylor at the time? Now, at the time, Elizabeth Taylor is kind of a new child actress. Daisy. Do you know who Daisy was?
I was going to say that. That's what Daisy was in Dagwood of Blondie.
Yes, from the comic book series.
Daisy. Jacob was in the movie. The dog's name was Jacob. And of course, it had a big part. And that was a charming scene when they were feeding the dog at the table. And the father goes, "Don't feed the dog at the table." And then when nobody was looking,
everyone's feeding the dog. He's going around getting food from everyone.
It's about little things in a script that make it so endearing that actually... old movies are done so well that you feel the characters can walk off the screen and you know exactly what they do in a situation, which you do not feel that sometimes. I try to be kind to modern cinema, but...
The movie was released at Radio City Music Hall on December 14th, 1944. Now, again, keep in mind the time and the importance of this movie. It's World War II. People are feeling kind of like angst over the war. This movie comes out right before Christmas, and it's just not only just such a box office hit. It was so well timed because MGM knew that people needed a feel-good kind of movie, and people responded to it because that's what they were looking for. They were kind of aching for something like that.
Yes,
and it became
timing
such a
is
success.
a lot of movies, and movies always reflect what's going on in society. And if some of them that come out now, boy, if they are reflecting what's going on in society.
I don't know. It's kind of scary. Here we go. How is the fast food chain Wendy's connected to the movie National Velvet? You're on.
Well, first of all, Arthur Treacher was next to my at the race, but I don't think of Wendy's. I think of Arthur Treacher's fish and chips, which I used to love. It was the best fish and chips. And then they went to Nathan's when they shrunk down. And now if they're Wendy's, I didn't know that, but I hope so because it was the best fish and chips. I loved them.
So this is another 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon kind of thing. Yeah. So what's the connection?
Well, Arthur Treacher was an actor, but he created the chain. His namesake was Arthur Treacher's Fish and Chips.
She's sort of right. I'll give her 75%. Wendy's was founded by Dave Thomas.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He used to do the commercials.
Yes, he used to do the commercials. Yeah. Dave Thomas also founded the fast food chain in 1969, Arthur Treacher's Fish and Chips.
He did?
He did, which some were located in New Jersey.
I got like 3/4 of it. I knew a lot, so I think I got 75%. Right.
Give her the Debbie's right stamp, okay?
Do I just have one Joe's thing?
You just have one, but the second one is going to be for you people, the audience. So we're adding a second question for you, audience members, and if you guess it right, you're going to type it in the comment section for this episode. If you're right, if you're the first one right, we'll give you a shout out in a future episode. So get ready, folks. Take this one down. Debbie, you might know this. Don't say it if you know it.
I'm not saying a word. Zip.
This wasn't the first time Mickey Rooney was in a role involving a horse. In all, there were 7 that were noted as the best equestrian roles in movies for him, and in television too. But there was only one movie which earned him an Oscar nomination. Which movie was it? Don't answer.
My Friend Flicka, 1943. Ken McLaughlin, a very young Roddy McDowell, struggles to please his family. He comes back from boarding school with poor grades, facing to repeat his school year. Ugh. His father blames the boy for having his head in the clouds and no responsibility. But Ken's mother gently persuades his father to let him choose a colt. He chooses a wild-eyed chestnut filly that becomes injured soon after and is a handful of responsibility. And that spawned 2 other ones of my favorite horse pictures, Thunderhead, which I cry every time I see it, and The Green Grass of Wyoming. Casey's Shadow from 1978. Casey's a young boy who lives on a beaten-down ranch with his widowed dad and jockey brother. They train quarter horses to race. His brother makes a seemingly stupid trade for a coonskin colt named Shadow. But Shadow exceeds expectations. Don't miss that one. Fantastic. The Black Stallion from 1973. After being shipwrecked with a magnificent black stallion off the coast of Africa in the 1940s, a young boy bonds with the wild stallion and trains him to race after they get rescued. Now, this song, most people don't know it, and I will say this is a good movie. I liked it. It's not hokey. International Velvet, 1978, starring Tatum O'Neal. Here she is, years later after the Grand National Velvet's orphan niece, Sarah, follows her dream of Olympic glory with her show-jumping horse, Arizona Pie, as a member of the United States equestrian team. Love it, show jumpers. And number 5, The Horse Whisperer from 1998. Robert Redford is at the helm as the Horse Whisperer, who in real life is the very famous trainer Monty Roberts. The mother of a severely traumatized daughter enlists the aid of a unique horse trainer to help the girl's equally injured, traumatized horse. And I made it through, even though I was drunk.
I can tell you why I didn't give it a 10.
I want to hear.
You want to hear mine first?
Yeah, I do.
I thought the ending was too buttoned up. I thought the important piece to me was Mike Taylor, not knowing the connection between Mrs. Brown and his father. And it was almost like, all right, let's wrap this up. Velvet go gallop away and tell him about it, and there was never any depth to that. It was like kind of an afterthought, all right, we need to finish the story, folks. Let's button it up. That's why I couldn't give it a 10. I thought they lost that part of the movie.
The reason is because although it's a wonderful film, Every time it's on, I don't have to sit and watch it. There are movies that I have to sit and watch. If I'm walking through, I put TV on and they're on, I go like, oh my God, I have to sit and watch them. I have like 5 of them. But that's why I gave it a 9.
Wait, I'm not understanding that.
What do you mean?
You don't have to sit and watch it. So this is a walk-away movie?
All right, there are movies that... One of them is Jaws. If it's on, I have to sit and watch
Yes, you can't go to the bathroom.
This is one of the films that did the Hollywood ending, which we've come to use it as casting aspersions.
Right.
But it really isn't, because it's not hokey. And I think if they had a conversation at the end and they wrapped it up and he said goodbye to the mom and they did all that stuff and hugs and all that, that would have made it a wrapped up, button-tied Hollywood ending. Down the road, starting the way it stopped. I thought that was beautiful.
Great movie, important for its time. And I do want to mention, important to women too, because you're talking about an era where women just got their voting rights in the early 1900s, 1920, voting rights. You're talking about England, again, where voting rights happened twice. And here's a conversation about something where a woman could do something that they're told not to do, but they can do and better. And I want to wrap this up, if I may. The scene between Mrs. Brown and Velvet, as you mentioned earlier.
In the attic.
In the attic. And she says, and this is where I almost got teared up.
Oh, boy.
Anne Revere, and she delivers this so perfectly. She says, there's a time for everything, a time for having a horse in the Grand National, a time for being in love, having children, and yes, even dying. All in proper order, all in proper time. And now it's the time to end our episode. Where are we going next?
Well, we're riding, we're whipping, we're going. And Joe, you never know where we're going until we go there. Yeah.